Have applause coming from the dock.
Yes, maybe that's payday. Maybe the accidents as always exist. Yeah.
A very gutsy decision to rerun the robot with so little time remaining. And good to see that it picked up some of those points again.
Okay, we'll get back next year. Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you back here again next year, Tien. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
It's important to remember that anything can happen in these finals. That is just the first run of the finals. Things don't always go the way people expect with robots. So the Harbin team has points on the board. It only remains to be seen how the other teams do to see what those final rankings will look like.
And I think it's difficult to be the first one out. You have no frame of reference to know how ambitious you need to be or what your strategy is going to be other than to try to run as many of the elements as possible. But normally we find that the teams that end up at the highest rankings typically pick the later slots in the finals. That's not always the case, but that's frequently the case.
A later slot gives the team longer to work on their robot and tweak things, maybe make adjustments to the code, because they have been allowed to have practice sessions on the other side of the course this morning. But it also can change the ambient conditions, and that's something that's very, very important in this competition. We've noticed the past couple of days that we've been overcast in the morning, and then by about noon or so, all that cloud has burned off and we've had bright, direct sunshine. But today, that's not the case.
That's right. Typical fashion, we've got a nice overcast day here. It's a beautiful day, of course, in what is normally sunny San Diego. We just have slight cloud cover. It's great. Go ahead.
But if a team had banked on having direct sunshine later on, and so they'd picked a time slot, so that they would get that sunshine, they may not have been correct this morning, and so it might have actually been a good move to go in the morning where you had reliable cloud cover.
Very true. It's one of those unknown variables that you cannot control, but it's part of the process.
Let's head over to the dock now, where our roving reporter Esteban has an interview with the Harbin team.
Thank you, Zaz. I'm here with Yutang Fu, all the way from China, Harbin University. Yutang, you had a pretty good first run and chose to do a second run. Are you happy about that choice?
Our program have some mistake, and the navigation and the camera recognize didn't work together well, so it just stopped there to find the target. Yeah.
Very well. Well, regardless, it was a great start to the webcast, a great start to the finals, and we wish you luck when we find out about the points later tonight. Back to you, Zaz. Thanks.
Thank you.
Smart. We'll do that too.
Once again, totally amazing that this team has come all the way over from China, second year in the competition, completely redesigned their robot. They went from one that was really looked from the outside like the kind of thing you'd expect from a first-year team. Everything very open and subject to being able to change things easily, get at the sort of insides of it. And then with that 1 year of experience, they redesigned the robot to really look slick. I mean, that robot looks like a professional robot to me. I was very, very impressed when I saw it for the first time.
It's also indicative of the change from the first year to the second year and subsequent years for most teams. That first year is really difficult. There's so many elements and things you don't know about, including, as you talked about, just the issues of travel, of expenses for the teams that are coming from outside of the U.S. There are visa issues oftentimes, but travel expenses and shipping are a big deal, which is why Tien talked about taking 6 months to raise their money. They've incurred a huge burden and expense coming from so far away, as many of these teams have.
So the next competitor now coming up for their final slot is Far Eastern Federal University, another team that's traveled a very long way to get here and conquered challenges that aren't just technical challenges. You can't underestimate the language barrier to come all the way over here and participate in a competition that involves writing a paper as well as designing a robot that can perform the complex tasks underwater here in the field. And so we have to give a great deal of respect to these international teams for coming out here and tackling all of the issues that are required to do well in the RoboSub competition and get here into the finals today.
There's the Russian vehicle on the dock, and I think maybe this is an opportunity to talk about some of the other elements of this competition that have preceded the in-water time Obviously, the performance in the water is a big deal, and we're seeing the challenges that gives the teams. But even before they get in the water, Oz, as you know, they've got to submit a journal paper, they've got to create a website, and then they've got to stand in front of a panel of experts and defend their approach and be able to withstand some grueling questioning from our panel of Navy judges and folks that have been doing this a very long time and are very critical sometimes, but in a good way, of trying to assess what the teams have done.
So we're very, very happy to welcome Fyodor up to the panel to tell us about the Far Eastern Federal University entry and walk us through as they do their run. Welcome, Fyodor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So to introduce Far Eastern Federal University and their team, let's show their intro video.
Hi, my name is Igor Tufanov. I am from the team of Far Eastern Federal University, which is in Vladivostok, Russia. This is our first time in the RoboSub competition, and let me introduce our team and the vehicle. Alexander Sherobatyuk is our faculty advisor. Denis Mikhailov is a technical advisor. Andrei is our chief mechanic. Vladislav also took a great part of construction and electronics. Nikolai is our electronic engineer. Fyodor is a programmer and navigation specialist. Nikolai is also a programmer. Evgeny is our sysadmin. He was dealing with Linux and our onboard computers. Sergey is our supply manager and just a good guy. Let's talk about our vehicle.
We have designed a vehicle especially for the RoboSub competition, paying attention to safety and reliability. For example, our housing could take 50 meters per hour.
We have two onboard computers connected by Ethernet. The vehicle can be configured from a laptop by Wi-Fi.
We use Linux on both onboard computers. Our control system consists of 9 processes, running simultaneously and talking to each other.
Upper level control was verified through a simulation, but anyway, we had to adapt our feature detection algorithms to real-life underwater images. We have arranged our program structure so that any algorithm could be easily replaced by another.
We have usual problems with supplies and Russian customs, but I know how to deal with it.
Great video, and the team's submarine is in the water at the dock, ready to start their run. And there it is, heading off. So the first thing the subs normally do is achieve the depth, because they can just go straight down in most cases and achieve the optimum depth for going through the gate, and then it's heading off towards that gate. Fyodor, are you guys pretty confident by now? You were quite consistent in qualifying, so are you confident?
Are you comfortable or confident?
Yes, of course. I'm comfortable.
Good. So you expect your submarine to do most of the mission? So-so.
One of the things that your robot seemed very good at was the hydrophone task and achieving that pinger.
Yes, it's
would you like to say something in Russian to your friends back home? Since we're quizzing you in English, and I know that's not your comfort level, if you'd like to speak in Russian to your friends back on the web, you can say whatever you'd like.
Of course. Всем привет.
So we can see they're having gone past that gate and achieving the first path marker. Now moving in on the training buoys. Now it looks to have bypassed the buoys. Is that on purpose? Were you attempting the buoy task or just moving beyond it?
Excuse me, I don't understand.
It's okay.
Without knowing what the mission plan is for this robot, it's difficult to tell whether it was deliberately just bypassing the buoys, perhaps just driving through the buoy area just to see if one was collected or not. But at any rate, the robot now seems to be proceeding through the first of the obstacle course obstacles. Once again, those green lengths of pipe define a virtual square, and the robot gets maximum points for passing through the area defined by those three elements, as though there was an imaginary horizontal cross piece at the top.
We've got great support here at Spaywar Systems Center from our divers who are carrying cameras as well as swimming along with the vehicles and supporting them. We've got some underwater cameras, some pole cameras, because as you said earlier, anything that happens under the surface of the water is not really a spectator sport. It's funny because if you're here on site, it's like being at a drive-in movie where everybody on site is standing in one direction facing the Jumbotron, without all the other things that went on at drive-in movies.
So we already have fan messages coming in from the web. We have messages, Fyodor, for you from your Russian friends saying, "We love you and good luck."
Ой, это было так непросто, но вот вроде у нас что-то получается.
We have a question also. I don't know if you were able to answer this. The question is, the two thrusters on the robot are at 45 degrees instead of straight forward. Is there a reason, is there a benefit from this?
We have some reason, but it's difficult for me to explain why we do it.
But perhaps, is it because it gives you better maneuverability, maybe? You can move around with more agility. It's all right.
The sub's going back to the dock.
Yeah, the team seems to be pulling it back, and I can use that opportunity to answer another question that's come in from the web, which is a question from Steve, which is whether a team can call a timeout to retrieve their sub while it's in the middle of its mission, even if it isn't having trouble. And the answer is yes. They can retrieve it at any time, but their score is zeroed out at that point if they go for another run. So the question was, could they retrieve it to reprogram it to go for higher value targets? They definitely can do that, but they would be starting their next run back from a level of 0. And so that would be a strategy call to make. If you were running out of time and you decided to just go for that Hail Mary pass and zoom through to the sonar pingers, that's totally acceptable under the rules.
And that's another reason we've got the divers swimming along, is that when the team wants to stop the run and have it pulled back and start over, you've got the divers that are lending that level of support. So,
another question from Nick on that subject was that in some of the competition photos earlier in the week, he's obviously been tuning in and paying attention, so that's definitely great to have that attention to detail. He saw that some of the subs were tethered to land, and he wonders what the purpose is of that tether, and that is to allow the teams to reprogram the robot. Some of the teams, you'll notice a Wi-Fi antenna sticking up from the robot. That has to be switched off, and anyway, it's not really usable under the water, even if it was allowed under the rules, but that's just for communicating at the dock. And so some teams opt for the reliability of a physical tether in order to download new code, retrieve information from the robot, and so on. But once it has left the dock, there are no tethers, everything must submerge.
I think it's also worth pointing out, Zaz, that earlier in the week we also had days of practice runs that did not count as scored qualifying runs. And during those practice runs, a lot of teams will keep the vehicle tethered or stay in communication.
And we're ready to head off from the dock again. There are those telltale jets of water coming up the top, indicating that the vertical thrusters have turned on and the robot is sinking down to its operating depth.
We've got a lot of foot traffic here in San Diego, a lot of folks that are out for bike rides or walks or just being out on a beautiful day here in San Diego have come out to the Transdeck site on Point Loma. And for those of you that are just getting here, this is the second team that's attempting their finals. We've got 6 teams in the finals. This is the second of 6. They've got a total of 20 minutes of a running clock time to attempt as many tries as they can, which is not going to be that many.
Well, the sub is being pulled back to the dock once again, and I've been informed that the team is going to do a strategy change. Just as we talked about earlier, they are going to download new instructions and attempt a different mission profile.
Interesting. So I'm assuming that, as we speculated, that with time running low, they may abandon some of the preliminary tasks and move straight to the high-value tasks.
Simple question from the web, Daryl, is the pool saltwater or freshwater?
It's freshwater.
So even though we're right here on the edge of the sea here in San Diego, we have a beautiful view of the ocean. The pool itself is freshwater, and you may notice it's fairly clear. There's a lot of algae on the bottom, but the pool is treated with a special chemical to keep that algae down on the bottom and try and improve the vision characteristics in the pool. But as someone asked earlier on the web, the clarity of the pool does change from day to day. The first day we were out here, it was very windy, and it seemed that some of that bottom sediment had been stirred up, and teams were having a lot of trouble getting their vision systems to perform as well as they'd hoped.
There are other variables as well. You're right. As we talked about earlier, the angle of the sun, the cloud cover, any of the sediment that may be stirred up. And it's important to note as well that between the practice runs and the qualifying runs, the course is reset. And then between the qualifying runs and even practices this morning and the finals this afternoon, we had the divers out there resetting many of the obstacles and moving them around. So there could be some sediment that was stirred up from that activity as well.
If we can quickly switch to the tablet view here while the sub is having its new instructions uploaded. Fyodor, a question from the web. What is this large central chamber on the submarine?
Can you explain what that is, the element on top with the circle around it? It's on your submarine?
Okay. In this place, we have many tethers for thrusters, cameras, Doppler velocity lag, compass, and other devices. And we use this very strange form for it.
So all those tubes are actually cable racers carrying cables into that
Yes.
central chamber where the computer is.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we can see also in this view the sub is being tipped up, and we can see the Doppler velocity logger is here, and the downward facing camera pointing
Yes,
there.
yes, yes.
And they're ready to launch again from the dock.
I'll be curious to see what it does. That was a relatively fast programming change.
The software that these teams create for this task is very intricate, very complicated, and contains multiple layers, because there's all this software that needs to read the sensors and interpret them, and then on top of that, quite complex visualizers and mission planners. So in some cases, creating a whole new mission for the robot is a matter of selecting these elements that the teams have designed as separate modules. Other cases, maybe it might take more effort to add a new task or move the tasks around.
It's a great view of the sub.
Yeah, really nice close-up view here. The reason it was pulled back just before, I'm told, is that it was just missing the gate to one side. So they put in some code to compensate for the deviation that it had made to the gate, and that seems to have slightly overcompensated. So it's being pulled back to just change that correction factor, and they'll be off again shortly. As Darryl mentioned, the course has changed. So some aspects of the team's experience over the last couple of days, obviously, they'll be able to carry forward in terms of their revision calibration and just knowing some aspects of the different challenges, how best to tackle them. But the physical locations of those challenges have moved. So the teams will not be able to count on survey data that they've captured over the past couple of days.
This is another tribute of having Dave Novick in the mix, because he was a student before and he knew how to game the system. So any advantage that we would give to the teams, Dave knows what those are, and he's taken most of them back. And he takes great pride in that. So.
The best way to get someone who will make sure there are no loopholes in the competition rules is to find the expert at picking out those loopholes as a competitor.
Absolutely. And here we go again.
Preparing now to leave the dock again. That explains why it was such a quick change in the code. If it was just a correction factor that's been tweaked, and they should be able to turn that around pretty quickly.
Of course, the clock is running the whole time, so that precious commodity of time is a big issue here.
Set. And there it goes down again, submerging to operating depth, and hopefully be able to go straight through that gate, and we'll see what other mission elements are going to be tackled at this late date. Not too many minutes left on the clock at this point. So 5 minutes little over 5 minutes left on the clock now, and I'm told that that last adjustment took a little longer than just to change the correction factor, because they have changed the mission profile. Once we go through the gate here, I think we can expect it to enter the hydrophone search mode, to head straight for that pinger and haul in those very reliable large number of points from the Laurel Wreath task.
And I think, as you said earlier, it looks like it's just trying to blaze a path through the buoys in the attempt of maybe hitting one on the way through. But
as far as I'm aware, buoy points are pale in comparison to the points available for the Wreath task. So if you have a choice between one or the other with limited time, you would want to be heading straight across the course. Fyodor, a question from the web. 2 computers on the sub?
Yes, we have 2 computers, one for navigation and another for video recognition.
So again, these submarines can be much more complex than they even look from the outside in terms of their electronic architecture. Sometimes multiple computers doing multiple tasks, and then of course you have to figure out how to get them to communicate and share information appropriately.
that looks like an attempt through the second gate. Can't tell from here.
Those, as we saw on the course map, that was the publicly released course map that was taken from the rules. So we don't actually have the real physical layout of the course. But it's quite possible that the green obstacles are on a natural path between the start gate and the laurel wreaths. So a robot might be able to go through them and get points, even if it was doing a run straight for the laurel wreath task.
So at this point, they've obviously ended that run again, but we'll see what the intent is with just under 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, once you see a diver grab the sub, at that point you know that the run has finished. If there's any human interaction, that's it for a run. But those divers are, I'm sure, working very hard in the water to bring that sub back as fast as possible to give them a chance for another run with those final couple of minutes they've got on the clock.
And they're taking it over. They're taking it over to the winch that brings it out. So this is either the end or.
Well, it's quite possible. I just heard from the dock that they are going to take the points. They're going to say, all right, we've got gate points, perhaps obstacle points. Let's you know, not enough time to risk another run. Let's just pull it out and accept those points.
There you go. That's part of the decision making. We'll see how that holds up as we go through the afternoon.
It's important to remember this is a technical challenge, but it's also, in a sense, a game. There is a strategy involved. Things have different points, and there are decisions that have to be made on the spot about whether to take additional risks or to lock in what you have.
True.
Nice shot there of the sub as it comes up on the crane.
Very much so.
Very, very good-looking platform, Fyodor.
Nicely done. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for you very much.
You're very welcome, and hope to see you again next year. Next year.
Maybe.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you again for joining us. Very, very impressed to see you guys up here once again. First-year competitors this time, so first time in the finals and having a good run out there. So thanks a lot, Fyodor, for joining us. Esteban is going to give us a little post-interview with the team that was on the dock there and had the inside story of what happened on that run. Over to you, Esteban.
Thank you, Zaz. Another team from far, far away, all the way from Russia. I'm here with Igor. Igor, how'd you feel about that run?
Well, that was kind of unlucky run for us. So we had some troubles at the beginning with entering the gate. But when we did that, we actually were run out of time. So we decided to cut our mission, just follow 2 paths, and after that, surface in the octagon. But somehow we didn't hurt any pings from the pinger, so it just floated up and that's it, the time's up. That was kind of unlucky.
Now, the difficulties that you had, was that due, do you think, to programming or something on the sub, or was it due to the redistribution of the obstacles and Dave Novik over there switching things up on you?
Well, check this out, but of course, David made some job, yeah.
You can have some words with him later. Thanks so much, Igor. Back to you, Zaz.
Thank you.
Well, Dave is responsible for the glitch in the webcast earlier as well, so we're just going to pile on Dave for the rest of the afternoon.
But great to see that Russian team here. They were nice guys to send someone up here to chat with us, although, you know, as you can see, big struggle for these international teams who are coming and competing not in their native language, and we really respect the efforts that they make to come up here, and in some ways they have a much harder task than some of the other teams that are familiar with the competition.
It's almost unbelievable that these teams can accomplish what they've done in their first year. Again, as you said earlier, things are not in their native language. There's so many additional barriers and difficulties that these teams have. And you can talk to the teams from around the United States that have a tremendously long list of issues in coming out their first year as well. And these guys just add on top of that. So my hat is off to all of the teams that have traveled from abroad.
Absolutely, Daryl. Just so impressed up here with these teams and how they've done. Coming up next, we have the University of Maryland. You can see their Tortuga 4 boat being winched up and preparing to get into the water. There's an example of one of those physical tethers. So the floating Cat 5 cable, of course, has to be removed. We had a team last year, I think, that wasn't able to detach their cable because of a leaking connector issue. So they had to throw the cable in the water with the submarine and drag it along under the water.
Improvisation.
That's definitely the name of the game out here. It's making do with what you have, and the hacker spirit is alive and well here at RoboSub. We are hoping to have a Maryland representative up here to join us on the podium, but we don't currently have one. So, Maryland, please send one over. And we are anxious to talk to you about how things are going to go in this run.
And I believe we had an issue with the Maryland video, so we're not able to show that. Is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, we have had some codec issues on our streaming webcaster. So, two teams, we will not be able to show their team intro videos, unfortunately, and they are University of Maryland and later on Cornell. But fortunately, in a sense, they're a team that needs no introduction. Both of those teams. You can go to the website if you would like to check out more about them. But they've both been in the competition for a long time, done very well over the years, and we're all very familiar with them. Especially the other teams, because they've been extremely helpful to the other teams. I remember Maryland last year, I think actually had a team